Well, good morning, boys and girls, or good afternoon, or hello. How are you? This is Mr. Ruson, as you can see, and today I am in Michigan. My wife and I decided it is a long weekend, so let's go and visit our daughter and son-in-law who live in a tiny little town in Michigan. Do you know where Michigan is? It is a state north of Tennessee. So how are you? And I am enjoying nature. Everybody was sleeping, and I decided I'm going to get up and I am going to take a walk in nature. I can see a lot of plants, and you know that plants are healthy when they are making glucose and making themselves grow. I don't know if you remember that song. And it's just a beautiful place. Anyways, today's learning target is I can explain and support with evidence what happens to the surrounding areas when a volcano erupts. Sounds a little bit dangerous. But anyways, today we are going to go in detail what happens to an environment when a volcano erupts. Are you ready? While I continue on my walk, I want to ask you, and I am sure none of you have ever experienced this, but have you ever seen a real life volcano erupt? Have you? I'm sure you've seen videos, but I don't think you've seen one in real life. I definitely haven't. Well, one time I saw something, a little smoke come from top of a mountain, and the tour guide told us that it was a volcano, but I haven't seen one. So what I want you to do is I want you to click on the link that your teacher provided for you, and I want you to watch the video on YouTube about these volcanoes erupting, okay? I want you to look at this video and remember, we are trying to keep in our minds what happens to an ecosystem, to the surrounding areas, and you know that an ecosystem is just an area, right? What happens to an ecosystem when a volcano erupts? Go right ahead and then come back. So what do you think? Pretty scary, huh? Maybe. Or impressive. Now, I want you to really think about the animals that live there. I'm going to give you a probable ecosystem, okay? It's a document that we have, and in that ecosystem you will see many organisms, many living organisms, and non-living organisms too, but we're going to concentrate on living organisms. And I want you to, by yourselves, or maybe you have a little brother or sister, or your mom and dad, and I want you to think. Now that you saw a volcano erupting, what do you think might happen to the organisms around that volcano? And I want you to be very specific, because remember, in our learning target, we want to support with evidence, right? So what will happen to each one of those organisms? So I have some questions there at the end of that diagram to help you think through that, to help you reason through all of that, okay? Are you ready? Okay, so go ahead and find that document. Okay, it's document number 1. And let's come back together and discuss it, okay? Remember, if you're by yourself, you do it on your own. If you have a little sister, brother with you, do it with them. If you are with other students, do it with them. And maybe mom and dad can do it with you. All right, document 1. Oh, boys and girls, one more thing. Please don't tell me, oh, the organism will die. No. No. I want you to think about each organism, think about the volcano and what the volcano did, and I want you to be specific, okay? Specific about each organism and what would happen to them and why, okay? So I want really, really good deep thinking and explanations, okay? All right. My wife and my daughter are calling that they are hungry. But anyways, I am hurrying up and going back, but I want to continue the lesson with you guys, and I want you to enjoy nature with me as well. So you went organism by organism and you wrote what you thought might happen to them based on that volcanic eruption, right? You did that, right? Yes? Okay, we're gonna go in just a little bit over it, but I want you to think about something else, okay? I want you to think about what might, if you visit, okay? So the volcanic eruption took place. It was going on for a few days, okay? Now, I want you to think about this. If you went to visit that same ecosystem, that same area, again in about 2 years after the volcano erupted. So if you go to that same area, okay, 2 years after the volcano erupted, what do you think you might see around you, okay? What do you think you might see around you? So, you just finished going over each organism on what you think might happen when a volcanic eruption happened and what would happen to each organism. But now I want you to think, if you go back to that same area 2 years later or 3 years later, what do you think you might see in that area, okay? Think about the volcano. Think about what was in the area. What do you think you might see now? I want to give you about 5 minutes to think about that and write in your Google Doc or in your science notebook. Write some of the things that you think you might see in that same area 2 years later, okay? All right? Now that you did that, I'm almost at the car now. I'm in a hurry. Now that you did that, I want to show you some before and after pictures of an ecosystem of a specific area before the volcano and after the volcano. Now I want to show you, and I want you to check with what you wrote to see if some of the things that you wrote are similar to what you see in these pictures, okay? So let's take a look at this before and after pictures. I am back in the car. I had to charge the phone. I was running out of battery with the lesson that I was doing with you guys. So do you know what is the number one thing that living organisms want to do? Like you, like a deer, a plant. Do you know what the number one thing is? Think about it. What is the number one thing that you and a deer and an ant and a grape plant and an oak tree, what is the number one thing they want to do? Think about it. Think about it. What do they want to do? What is the number one thing that the plants don't have it in their mind, but what is the number one thing that they want, that they need to do? Think about it. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to think about it. I'm sure some of you are going to come up with it. 30 seconds. Okay. 20 seconds left. The number one thing that living organisms want to do, must do. That's right. To survive. They will do whatever it takes to survive. Whatever it takes. And what do we need? What do living organisms need to survive? Let's take animals, for example. Animals and humans. What do they need to survive? Water, air, food. And then, of course, an area to live and shelter. But with water, food, and air, they have the basic, and then an area to live and shelter. For plants, their food also, which is what? They get it from the sun and the other things that we talked about in photosynthesis. The soil, and they need the carbon dioxide that we give them. And they just want to survive. That's what they want to do. So think about that when you were thinking about the animals, the organisms around that area. You saw all the changes that had happened in that area. As those changes are happening, what is the number one thing that they want to do? That's right, survive, so that they can reproduce, so that they can have offspring, so that they can have babies, so that they can have offspring. They want to continue. They want to live, to survive. They need those things. Okay, I have to get going, so I will finish the lesson from a different location. But think about that, what the organisms want to do most. So now I finished my walk, I took a shower, I changed, and I am waiting. I thought that everybody was gonna be ready, but I'm still waiting. So anyways, back to our lesson. What do organisms have to do when a volcano erupts? Well, based on what we talked about, I'm sure you've realized that they either have to move to a different area, or they will have to make some changes to their diet, to the way that they find shelter. In other words, they have to adapt, or they'll just die. That's just as plain as that. They'll either move, adapt, or die. Well, I don't want to end the lesson with such a doom and gloom word. They'll just have to die. But anyways, that's just what happens. And now I want you to think about any other natural disaster, natural, not caused by humans, but any natural disaster that, like a flood, earthquake, and landslide, any of the natural disasters you can think of. What will happen? The ecosystem is going to change, and the organisms in it are going to have to either change with the ecosystem, or they'll have to move to a different one, or they'll just die. All right, boys and girls, I will see you next time, and next time we are going to be discussing not natural disasters, but what humans do to, well, I'm not going to tell you that much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.